a snack? Here, go back and put it in the trunks.
That shut him up, huh?
Always works.
Well, let's get started here. Well, we're here to celebrate my father's 70th birthday.
Yay!
70 years old. 70 years old. That sounds like a lot of years. We used to think 70 years was real old, but I think these days we don't think that anymore. If you look at Bill, he really doesn't look 70 years old, even though he's had a couple heart attacks and 3 strokes. He really doesn't look 70 years old. But he was born in 1932, and 1930.
32 or 33?
No, yeah.
32.
32.
If he's 70, he's coming.
That was a good year. Franklin Roosevelt.
That's
got
my
elected.
brother who doesn't know. I mean, you're somebody was born.
32, that was when I think William Howard Taft was president.
No,
it was Herbert Hoover.
Herbert Hoover. Charlie Chaplin was the movie star of the day, I think, right?
The Little Tramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we...
Sandra Bernhardt. And I think they were working on the radio then or something like that.
Crystal said. And you know, wait a minute. You know, in 1932, my mother and father had 3 boys they could hardly feed.
Well, they ate so much.
And it was the head of the Depression. And if I think if they had Roe versus Wade in those days, this gathering would be unnecessary.
I guess what I'm really trying to say is for the younger generation here, I think we think of 70 years old as like ancient, but
We're rethinking that
it's really not. It's really not. Just look at him. He's the youngest 70-year-old guy I've ever seen. So, and I think it changes our conception of being older. Because I know when I was younger, I used
Did you say perception or concept?
both. And I don't have anything else to say. Does anybody else have anything to say?
Well, we're going to have a few other ceremonies after dinner, but before dinner, Uncle Larry, did you want to
Yeah, I got some. I spent 5 minutes this morning preparing.
That's organized. Sure.
Yeah, I did. This is going to take about an hour. Relax. I read it over just once.
Is it in Yiddish or English?
Both. First of all, I'm going to try and tell you about the essence of my kid brother Bill.
It's a good essay, yes.
You know, about your father, father-in-law, your husband, and that it's not easy to get somebody's essence, okay? Trying to tell or ever find out about the essence of a person is difficult. It's sometimes almost impossible, okay? Now, I looked up the word essence in the dictionary, and this is what it says. That which makes something what is, a fundamental nature, a most important quality, the inward nature of anything or person. So that's what I'm going to try and describe for you in my own humble way. Now, all of these things I'm going to say, you most likely know already about children. I'm just going to remind you on this occasion. Now, what I'm going to tell you first is what Velvel, and that's what we call him now. Velvel is his Yiddish name. Now, when we were growing up, my mother and father never called him Velvel. I mean, this is of late. It's like retro, but it's not. We never called him Velvel. We called him Billy, or some other name. But I call him nowadays. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you what Billy isn't. I'm not going to tell you what he is first. Okay. Now, he's not always loquacious. Sometimes, but not always. However, I might add that in his later years, his mellower years, he's getting more talkative. But at one time, you couldn't get through him. He wouldn't, you know, you could go in a car with him for 3 hours, and he wouldn't say one word. You know, me, I got to keep talking. I can't.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay, and we got the hot dog done.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Now, this is what he isn't, see? He doesn't accept conventional wisdom. Always asks, how do you know? Always queries, who are they? And he won't give in. So I got dinner, but I don't even, I wrote this down, but I don't remember what I said. He said, what is the opposite of a semi-cynic? That is what he is. I don't even understand.
It's a Talmudic question, Lyle.
Well, I know. And then you never hear my brother Billy say, oh, what a great movie. Or what a great situation comedy. You know, you never hear him say that. He isn't that demonstrative either. Have you ever seen him come up and spontaneously hug and kiss someone even though you know he loves that person? Well, you know, he's
Yes, he hugs and kisses me all the time.
all right. Okay.
All the time.
But you expect that of you.
Marilyn, does he do it spontaneously or upon command?
Spontaneous.
Okay, how many times have you heard him say, I'll pay cash? Don't put on my credit card. How many times have you heard him say to the waiter, I'll have caffeinated coffee? Or how many times have you heard him say to a waiter, any old wine will do? Now I'm going to tell you what I think he is. First, he's almost a genius, or perhaps he is a genius when it comes to mechanical know-how. He can figure out, and he's modest about it too, any problem, whether it be a broken garbage disposal or a complicated computer.
What are you doing tomorrow, Bill?
But that's only his brains and dexterous ability. I wanted to get to his essence, or his neshama. And you know what neshama is. Everybody knows what neshama is. That is Yiddish. That means his inner soul, his deep nature. I'm going to list them. Only some of them. That's okay. I still haven't figured out all of them yet. I will. I got time, plenty of time for that. This is what he is. He's loyal and has always been deeply loyal to his brothers and to his family, of course. Anything you ask of him is right there. Ask him to build a structure for you in the drugstore, he's there. Ask him to help in the store at the busiest times. When I had the drugstore, he's there. He does it for nothing, too. Ask him to pick you up at 12 at midnight at the airport, he's there. Ask him to build a new kitchen at the beach house, he's there, etc., etc., etc. And God forbid anybody should say a negative thing about his brothers. Watch out. And of course, his devotion goes beyond his brothers. He's equally devoted to his family, and you know all of us learn from our own family background, right? We learn from our own family background. That's how we incorporate what we are today. But in our case, I think that my darling brother Veldo took most of the positive experiences and put aside the negative ones to make the family man he is today. Now, I could go on and on and on, but all I can say more is that I love him.
Thank you, Lala. Same thing you said at the
No, I didn't. Did I say anything?
Hey, Larry, hold it for another 10 years. You can recycle
Yeah,
it.
right.
Well, good. Lunch is almost ready, and then after lunch we're gonna have a few more other events.
All right, we're gone.
Before we have dessert, I'm going to say a few things, and then I think during dessert, Steve, or maybe before dessert, Steve may serenade you with one of his custom homemade songs, and then my mom's going to say a few other remarks, culminate the whole event here. But in honor of this August occasion, I wanted to, like to anthologize my father's life. Excuse me, is that good for Jews or bad for Jews?
Yes, Louis. No interruptions now.
No, I encourage the interruptions. In fact, I'm going to ask, as I go through this, I'm going to look for people to help me get the stories right from years back. But so this anthology wanted to do something that would be reflective of my dad's personality, and of course he's got a lot of idiosyncrasies and provocative characteristics. And Steve's going to satirize them in a moment in his song, but I thought the one that for me to stand out the most was, as I think Uncle Larry pointed out, he has a proclivity to make and fix things for people. And so that's where I thought maybe I would kind of look through his life there and see and kind of denote certain major events in that respect. And in culling through his list of accomplishments in this area, which are very numerous, and to go through all of them would be way beyond the scope of this occasion. In culling through it, it made me wonder, why does he do this? Why does he fix all these things? Any guesses? I have some theories. Could it simply be that he's got a knack for it and he's got a strong work ethic? Could it be that he's got this natural desire to outdo his father, who I'm told is quite the great at fixing and making things and so forth? Could it simply be that Mom told him to do it? That's the answer. Or here's what I think it is, and it's based on this innate kind of desire that was popularized in the book. I don't know if anyone read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Anyone read that? I don't know if you're familiar with that theory there, but I'll summarize by saying that my dad's a sensitive guy, but like a lot of men, and in contrast to women, he doesn't like to show his affection by talking. He does it by doing, by fixing problems, and that's the way a lot of men are. And I think that's one of the things that drives him to do all this stuff. So with that kind of motivation as a backdrop, let me go through some of these major accomplishments in his lifetime. Now, in doing all this research, and
You said that was repressed love?
repressed love, I don't know if they would call it repressed, it's just another way of expressing it. But maybe men who can't express it through fixing men actually have it as repressed, and there's no way of getting it out. That's a whole other time.
So if you're a klutz by nature,
You're doomed to just have to emote then, I guess.
Then you have to hug.
So, in my research and going through the basements and talking to a lot of people, the first event that I could come up with was, I think it was 1943. Uncle Larry helped me with this one. My dad was, I think he was a little older than that shot over there. It was before his bar mitzvah. And I actually found, this is how I found about this. See this piece of wood right here? I don't know. It's this old, knotty piece of wood. This, they tell me, was the from your dark room that you built in the basement of Love Lane. And Larry was telling me about it, and true to form, there was a devious part of this construction. I guess my dad, one of his characteristics, he likes to reuse a lot of things. He reused your dad's wood, which I'm told he was not too happy with when he found out about.
I had to run to the park. Until dark.
And then from I got the dates right here. From carpentry to automotive mechanics. In 1952. I don't know if you know if anyone knows what this is. This is a solenoid from a 1952 black Chevy. Right, Uncle Larry?
Bel Air? Was it Bel Air?
No, it wasn't a Bel Air. It was a 49, but
He had a 48 Oldsmobile.
no.
Or the one after that?
With the padded dash.
Oh, the padded
What I
dash.
bought from Gottlieb.
It was from the last century.
Over the way, there's a big cloud of black smoke. And I just talked to the same guy who sold it to me like this.
So you're still talking to him, even though he sold
So
you
he
one.
didn't know anything about cars. He says, Larry, when you went big black smoke, yeah, black. And that's what I gave him.
So Uncle Larry went to college, and he
No,
left
the Army.
the Army, and he left the Lemon for my dad
Right.
to fix. And that was the first of many cars, I guess, that you fixed up. Did you replace the transmission or the?
That was in college, like in the backyard on Love Lane, in the middle of the winter, in the Christmas break. Replaced the transmission on a beat up Chevrolet.
I have a concept.
Yeah, it was either that or Walker.
Yeah, that's a very illustrious car
It
career.
was the first car that had the side seat.
But I'll tell you, wait a minute. In 19, when I was in Weaver High School, Sammy, my brother Sammy left a 38 pack. The kind that opened up on the side, you know? Can't you remember that? And the carburetor started. I was at Weaver High School, and I lied on the fender and poured gas in the carburetor as we go home.
Oh my God.
Donnie Steinberg drove the car, and I poured gas into the carburetor as they drove.
Why?
Carburetor died. It wouldn't feed gas.
So he was the carburetor. He was a.
So you were a carburetor.
You heard of the Spider-Man.
That's impressive.
Mad Max.
You have an illustrious car career. I've heard you say he had something.
Well, now that you brought up cars, it reminds me of details that his father was involved in. The first car I ever owned, I was a junior in medical school, and I needed a car now that was going to be taking my rotation in Portland, Maine. So I figured, I don't know anything about cars, but my father's mechanical and knowledgeable. So he was looking for a job to find me a used car. And he found a used Chevrolet, and it was a two-tone Chevrolet, probably about 4 I'm so excited. I even did the upholstery. I used my surgical skills to upholster it.
That's nice too.
That car burned more oil than gas. I kept it for about 3
That
months.
wasn't one of my better choices.
What a lemon. Speaking of lemons, I used to go into a garage and say, give me 5 quarts of oil and a gallon of gas.
Well, so it was carpentry, it was cars, but there was also another forte of my dad's, and it was electronics. I don't know if you recognize the speaker, but Uncle Herbie probably does.
Where'd you get that?
This, once again, in my research, we're combing through people's garages and attics and talking to them. This was what was it, maybe around 59? You're in your late 20s? You were going to college or something? And my dad assembled his first stereo. And this was the woofer. You can see that's the kit.
It was a kid, yeah. An eco kid or something.
Yeah, you was in the army already.
Right. Or Dick.
Yeah. That was 55. So you were in your late 20s. And then after that, I guess you moved to the house in Westridge, and that started a lot of work on the house. Talk about the second. But then we moved into the 60s. And
What do you want to say?
the 60s, you were about my
What do you
age.
want to say?
Maybe late 30s, early 40s. And one of the things that I did in that house is I had quite the lawnmower business. Sorry, Larry, that was actually my most highest paying
Right, that was 50
job here. And so my dad kept my fleet of lawnmowers running. And I don't know if anyone can see this right here.
Every 5 minutes.
He'd go out with one, he'd bring back another woodwork, and take another one, and fix that, and he'd go back one. I was here all weekend fixing one.
But in fixing the lawnmowers, he taught me a few things about it. I remember one day.
How many fingers do you have?
You were showing me how to. I'm trying to remember yeah, that's right. You showed me how a spark plug works. And so he'd say, hold this. He'd say, pull over. I jumped about a foot in the air. And ever since then, I know how a spark plug works. So that was that one. So then that was the 60s
Rule
back.
of thumb, never hire a Jewish kid to do your lawn. They all go to camp after 1 week, and they all have asthma.
And they overcharge too.
So then after I was my lawnmower career, that's when where's Jenny? Then I went to college. And so that was, this is now in the early 70s, so now you're in your late 40s. And I said, you know, in order to have the right kind of dorm room, I needed a special control panel.
Oh, yeah.
Holy mackerel.
That looks like a garage door.
Could have been. This was, so for, even now, to this day, it sits in the corner of my bed. So it allows me to control the lights and my stereo from my bed, and he built that for me. I can pass that around. That's and look at it. It has the. I especially liked the wood paneling.
So good. How bad, yeah. You still use it? Where's Lisa's? Is it still in his room?
So then, I graduated from college, and I was living in a cheap studio in Cleveland Circle, where Sherry lives in Boston. And so once again, you know, I didn't. It was a pretty rough setup. So I said, you know, I needed something to demarcate my studio. So it was like one or two. So it looked like it was maybe 2 rooms or something. So so my dad built this big piece of furniture. I couldn't bring it, but I wanted to show you. These are the instructions for it. And this is the day before computers, so I mean, as someone who can't write a note without using a computer, I just was, you pass that around, it's kind of you know, interesting to see how he, by freehand, could draw pictures and write the whole thing down. I don't think there's one eraser mark on it.
That's in Marc's room.
That's what?
That's in Marc or Jason's room.
No, that's actually still, if you come and stay in my house, in my guest bedroom, it's still there.
What about his invention?
Well, I actually, like I said, he's got a lot of stuff here, but I tried to focus on things that he did for Larry or Herbie or me. Got a few other things that, so that was done for the corporate, for the suits, you know, the guys.
Money on that.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, let's see. And then, this is now moving now into the 80s. And so my dad's retiring now. And so there's now maybe he's starting to do things for himself a little more, not just for other people. And one thing that I think he's especially proud of, I don't know if anyone knows what this is. Any guesses?
And basketball
I
machine.
think it was soup. I learned, you know, actually when I first showed it to some of my friends, because we were trying to figure out the age of it, they thought it was a pipe for the New York City water system. But in fact, it's a pipe for his backyard irrigation system. It's high capacity, and my dad is very proud of this system. In fact, when my kids were here recently, he turned the whole thing on. There was like a big set of fountains coming through the whole yard. And so my dad started making big fountains. He made fly rods and flies and golfing nets and things like that. So that was kind of in the age when he was starting to do stuff for himself. And all along, you know, renovating the house and everything. And then the biggest item I could get, so as I'm moving through the decades here, was something that he did recently for Steve in this sweltering heat. And I will present it for you by basically going this big fence here. This was the most recent work of art here. And my dad is fond of this quote, you probably heard it a million times, that you could launch the space shuttle from it. And so he's done a lot of carpentry work like that, a lot of platforms and things. And I thought that, since that's the most recent thing that he's done, and since it's kind of an anthology, a lot of rituals, especially Jewish rituals, from bar mitzvahs to bris and so forth, not only about the past, they're about the future. And so I thought it'd be appropriate for us to give my dad some work projects, so that in the year 2022, when he's 90, we can give a little progress report. And I'll tell you, my first one that's coming up is I have him scheduled to build my wine cellar next year. And I think, Steve, you have some...
Oh, just a few things. Greenhouse, room in the attic, room in the basement. You know, small projects.
And I think Larry, did you have another platform you wanted in the build? You built no, nothing for like your orchestra stage or something like that? Or? Yeah, right. And then, as a kind of a finale to all this, when you work for a company for decades, you make a lot of accomplishments, they usually give you a gold watch or something. But we were thinking, well, how would it be best to kind of commemorate this 70th birthday in that respect?
Golden hymn.
I've heard of yours twice. Yes. This is a gold-plated hammer that we bought on the internet. It was made in India, and where gold is cheap, and it's very soft. But we wanted to present that to you in honor of. I don't already make more of a paperweight because gold will shatter.
Do you have a safe deposit box? You might want to put it there.
Since when are they in India? I don't know.
They're no longer a United States firm. They've gone offshore.
If it was gold through and through, Marilyn would have you melt it down
Now
and
I'll
make
wear it
some
around
good
my
jewelry.
neck. It's a little too heavy to wear around my neck. Oh yeah, the chain. I still have that.
Of course, the person who utilized Bill's services the most was
Oh, yeah, that's right.
he, as soon as he saw him driving up, he was at the door
With a process.
with a list of what needed to be fixed, and there was always,
Duct tape would do everything.
How about the porch? You built the screen in the porch?
Did the porch?
Yeah.
Gee, I forgot about this. I'm gonna start
In
collecting.
order to did my father have a project for him, but every time he came to my house, he went home with a piece of wood.
Yeah. Or a brick.
And one day I drove up to the house
boy,
and
did I have to clean out a lot of wood and brick.
he had lined the driveway with these pieces of wood.
So the dogs wouldn't come out on it.
Didn't he paint them like bright
Every
orange?
time he left my house, he walking out with a piece of wood.
Every picture was held up with duct
The
tape.
duct tape, right.
Did you build that shower for him? The shower in the outback?
He enclosed.
He was proud of that.
He enclosed.
Oh, I love that shower. He'd say, it's a papaya, take a shower in the backyard. You want the neighbors to
The whole
watch.
neighborhood was like watching.
The curtain never closed.
That was in the last, not the house on the Mountain Drive.
No, the last house on
Greenway Road.
So, let's see, do we want to have dessert before Steve you serenade the group here? Or you want to do it now or after Steve?
I can't let this day go by without saying a few words about Bill. And I don't have anything scripted. It all comes from my head and my heart. And as I looked around here today, I said, I'm really the matriarch of this family. I'm the oldest one here. And I used to hate that. My mother would always introduce me as, this is my oldest daughter. And I always hated that. I always hated when she used to say, and Barbara would appreciate this. She would say, this is my oldest daughter, this is my youngest daughter.
My baby.
Right? My baby. And I was always the oldest, and I used to say, Ma, please don't tell everybody I'm the oldest daughter. But you know, I'm the oldest one here today, and I feel very good about it. I also feel that next to Larry, I think I know Bill the longest. 50 years. It's a long time. We met when we were in college. We went together all through college. We graduated. We graduated together. Actually, Bill had an extra year because he transferred from psychology. He was a psychology major. He went into engineering. He figured you could make a better living in engineering than he could in psychology. So he had to go the extra year to make up all the credits for the engineering program.
Can I interrupt? Why didn't you want to be a psychologist?
No, I thought, no, you told me because you didn't want to sit around and listen to other people's problems.
No, I'll tell you a reason why. In my second year when I was about to go into the major, I went to the psychology school. I talked to all the instructors and all the professors, and they were all nuts. They said, how do we part of this?
Because engineering was such a different. So we had to go the extra year. But we graduated together. This was 1955. And in those days, when you were 18 years old, you had to register for the draft. You were drafted. But if you went to college, you were deferred. So he had his 4-year deferment, his 5-year deferment. And as soon as he graduated, the Army had to be served. And he was waiting around. He took a job with GE as an engineer, but the Army was breathing down his neck. So he requested draft, and sure enough, they drafted him. And off he went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, in the Army. He hated the Army. He hated every single minute of it.
Serious understatement.
He thought it was a complete waste of his life, but he knew he had to do it, and he served it, and he completed his assignment at Fort Dix. I would go weekends. I had a couple of friends who would drive down all the way to Fort Dix, which is quite a ride from Connecticut. He drove down in his old jalopy car. He left me an old car, an old Oldsmobile, 48 Oldsmobile, and I drive down all the way through the Merritt Parkway, through New York City, down the Jersey Turnpike, and we would get there.
They didn't have AC in cars, did they, back then?
Didn't have AC. One day we drove down the whole Jersey Turnpike with a muffler that was missing. You can imagine, we were like,
It's still there, too.
so he comes to the end of his 2-year service, and his orders were Fort Bliss, Texas. Texas, my God, that's like the end of the world. In those days, you didn't hop on a plane like you do today. To go to Texas was a big deal. They said, oh my God, he's going to go to Fort Bliss, Texas. We better do something. So I met him in New York, Thanksgiving, and we decided to get married. This was 1955. We got married 1 month later in December. And in 1 month, we planned a wedding, a big wedding, 150 people at this wedding. Well, Larry helped, Larry. And we planned this wedding. We planned this wedding, and it was in Grand Lake Lodge in Colchester, which was halfway between Hartford and the London. And it was a beautiful wedding. It really was. So, in the meantime, I am teaching high school at Hall High School in West Hartford. Bill's in the Army, and believe it or not, his orders weren't Fort Bliss, Texas. They ended up to be Camden, New Jersey. In those days, there were Nike sites all over the big cities. Philadelphia, Boston, Washington. And there were 12 Nike sites around Philadelphia. He was stationed to the one on the New Jersey side. And the interesting thing is the Army didn't plan this out, but they sent a very capable guy. He was like the only one that understood the whole technology of this Nike site. All the other guys there, they didn't know what was going on. But being an engineer, it was just a fluke that they sent him there and he knew what was going on. So consequently, he had a lot of special privileges. Weekend passes, and also he could live off the site. So I stayed in West Hartford teaching until March of that year, 3 months. And we couldn't stand it anymore. I said, that's it. I quit my job, broke my contract, which was an unheard of thing in those days. And I said, this is ridiculous. So we went down, and I got a teaching job immediately. And we finished our 2 years in the service. He was home every night, every weekend. And it wasn't like being in the service. It was like kind of working at a Nike site. All the officers kind of resented him because he had the technological background they did. And he really knew what was going on in this Nike site. Nobody else did. And he really... It was a Nike. What does it stand for, Bill? A missile site. This was during the Cold War. We were fighting the Russians, and the Russians were going to bomb all our cities. So around all the cities in the United States.
After the airplanes, the cable wouldn't get age.
But anyhow.
Nothing ever worked that nobody knew.
But your expertise was there. And
Well, yeah, they expected generals to come around and see if everything worked, and I made it work, so they left me alone.
And he came home every night and every weekend, and he had a lot of special privileges. And they resented him for that because he had the technology and they didn't. But anyhow, his service was over. 2 years. We came back to Hartford. I finished for 1 year, teaching another year in Glastonbury High School. Bought a house in Bloomfield. I was pregnant that June. Jeffrey was born in 58. Michael was born in 61. Stephen was born in 65. And the rest is history. You all know the rest. But I do want to say something about Bill. And as I look around here, everybody has some kind of relationship with him. I mean, my husband. It's been a wonderful life with him. We were nephew.
Where's the cat?
Nieces.
Where's the cat?
So, but I do want to say I think his greatest strength are his sons. I really think they're his best friend, and I really think that he's their best friend as well. They communicate all the time on the internet. There's never a day that goes by that they don't talk and they don't communicate in any way. And Bill's talent is his creativity. He's a genius. He really is. He's very modest. He never brags. He'll never say, I did this, I did that. But that's his personality. But if you talk to anybody that knows him and what he accomplished, you really know who he is and what he is. He's intellectual. He reads 3 or 4 newspapers every day. He's a maven with the computer. And I really think that his sons are the most important things in his life, and I'm sure they are as well. And one other final thing I want to say is that his values are friendship. He has friends from when he went to elementary school in Hartford. He has friends that he grew up with. He has a whole new circle of friends in Florida. Everybody that meets him likes him and meets him. There's nothing that he can't discuss, that he can't talk about. I don't think there's a subject that he can bring up that he can't put his input. He may not agree with it, but it's his input, and he's so knowledgeable about it, about everything.
Nice to be right on.
And his creativity. My father used to say, talking about my father, we talked before, that he had golden hands. That means golden hands, and he really did. I call him a Renaissance man. He's my he hates to hear that, but I wouldn't say that. He's a Renaissance man. He can do anything. Anything that you ask him, he can do. And
Don't you remember what Dad said on the tape when he was talking about his life? My daughter married an engineer, William Cohen.
well, he is creative. He can do anything. And he is my best friend. There's no question about it. And 70, or going to be 70 next month. We've been together for 50 years, and I was thinking right now, we have another 50 years, that'll be 120 years. And to 120, as they say in Yiddish, to 100 year. It's a saying that they say to 120 years. We should live 120 years. And I don't know if I want to be around then, but
You know how many trips
I
you've
hope
had?
to. I hope to.
You hear that? A lot of proving.
I remember when Stephen was born, the doctor called up. I don't know how to say what you got.
What a boy.
You know how well they turned out. But anyway, then I remember the kids. Every play, one season, Little League, and he never made an error. Jim Hunt, avid coach. What was the name of the
FC,
company?
Knights of
Knights
Columbus.
Knights of
Columbus.
An appropriate team for choice. Came up to me, this kid had no errors in 1980. He wanted to sign a long-term contract. Jeffrey.
Well, they all
Then,
played.
wait a minute, 1960. Then I remember one day in the afternoon, about 4 o'clock, the doorbell rings. I open up the door, and there's Michael, smile from ear to ear, with a bottle of champagne. And I go, Jeff, he won the, he got into Harvard.
That's right.
But then you remember, when Stephen was 16, he just got his license. We were in the front door watching, but he drove out of it in this 1972 Pontiac. It was as big as his pool. He got in, he was taking off his first big trip.
He's going to a
He
concert.
was going to a concert in the Havens, and your mother and I looked out the window. We were shaking, and he was driving off with his buddies to the Havens. He made it. Then I remember looking at Dan. Dan, how many times when you were getting your PhD did I say, are you done yet?
I got a notice recently. I have to go back and take some more tests.
Did you pass your swimming test? They had a requirement to graduate. You had to be able to swim.
Yeah, we from UConn you had that.
At Columbia.
And I remember her. I used to have a lot of talks with your father. And in the next room, I remember this distinctly. I looked over and there's your mother feeding Barbara peanut butter and jelly.
Jelly said, I still eat it. No, peanut butter and bananas.
Peanut butter and bananas.
That's like
She
the
used to
king.
serve Barbara like she was the queen of sheep.
You and Elvis.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and
Well,
bananas.
then, wait a minute now.
Wash it down with ditch.
Herbie, when he was interning at Bellevue, remember Mary, he brought us to the emergency room?
Yep.
I never saw so many dead people in one spot in all my life. I was so scared. They were all alive. No, they were dead. They were all, these derelicts were lying on the bed, all nude. Then, Mary. Larry came back and he bought a Chevrolet, red and white Chevrolet. 55 Bel Air. No. No, wait, it was early 55. Like I was still around. So everybody was going. Everybody was going to New York. Remember? All the college guys were going to New York with my friends. So Larry said, "Give me the car, brand new car." Didn't have the time. I packed my saxophone for $100. And I took his car, and there was some chicken with the
But you know what, Michael, that was the red and white Chevy. You know the one that was
That's a
worth
classic.
$35,000?
That's what I missed. That's what I missed. His brother.
It's the red, that's what I bought. Red?
That's what your
Bel Air.
grandmother had, Danielle.
The red
She had the convertible
body
Bel
or
Air.
white body and red top. They're still around, you know.
I know that they do a lot of that now for retail.
I know.
I thought that since you have this expertise in healthcare, you could branch out to retail and actually become. You read about that? That retail is doing the same thing. The reason why I read about the retail is because they're also retail is starting to cameras. No, it's how they handle it. So you go into a Nordstrom, it's an upscale store, so they want their, so they pay for this service, and they also videotape it on the side. And so they evaluate. Yeah, right. Right. We were talking about the
Yeah.
career path for the saxophone.
Okay, then
My
say,
brother
unless
said
you're
first
like
you
a
have to
Van Taylor.
do a lot of cocaine.
lot of marijuana, cocaine, yeah.
Then you can really graduate to the next level.
But it isn't the same. I don't think that they're doing that now. It used to be. I know you're joking. I know. But I mean, it was big. All the big guys were doing cocaine. That's the young.
What I'm saying is, you think that musicians, what is in the election to musicians?
Well, now, the rock stars, yeah, I think there's big relationships. Why? You know why? Because it's what, well, I don't know exactly.
They wanted to sing that high that they did before me.
But I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a cultural thing.
No, I think that.
But it's a cultural thing.
No, it's not.
It's a cultural thing. It's, in other words, it's peer pressure. One guy does it. Why do you think all his, like, you've heard of Charlie Parker? He was the guru. He was taking cocaine like crazy. So every guy says if he's doing it, why can't I do it? And I've read that. That's not my own conversation. Oh, so it's creative.
I think it's the creative mind that needs it to shut off the.
You need 2 brief sandwiches.
You're on camera.
Steven, I got clothespins.
Watermelon, good, okay. My full net, excellent. All right.
All right, be quiet. Oh, you got it.
So, I wanted to
come up with a sort of a melodramatic, tear-jerking song, but my father's life was just too darn good.
That's right.
So there was,
Yay!
I guess there were script problems from the beginning. And so I came up with a song. It's called "The Story of Billy the Sea."
Billy to what?
Billy the Sea. It was the Depression in 1932 when Billy was born. The New Deal was still new. His father a carpenter, his mother a saint. If not for Jenny, no one knows what would be. She could take any schmatza and make it like new. Well, not exactly. With 4 boys and a husband, what else could she do? Bill married his sweetheart, Beach Queen Marilyn Dean. They had 3 boys. One thought he could sing. Bill went to the army in 1952. His shoes were too tight, and it made him real. At United Technologies and Engineers, testing jet engines for 31 years. Don't forget Mr. State. At 59 and a half, Bill retired in cheer. He golfs and he naps, and he mails his peers. He went to a restaurant. There was a long line there. He made some neat faces, but nobody cared. He sat at his table. It wobbled too much. The wine list was crap and no good piece of meat. Bill ordered his steak rare. After explaining if you order it rare, it comes out medium rare. It came out medium well. The coffee was cold. He sure hopes it was decaf.
got Arthur Schwartz. At least he could watch the West Wing on TV. The story of Billy the Sea, as good as a life could be. His ticker is strong and his mind is still new. Now William is 70, it's only a number. The story of Billy the Sea.
To get the right music.
By popular demand, all the way from California, Florida, and Sierra Mass, the Cohen brothers. Achmed brothers,
That's more things to do.
with their rendition.
That's it. Track well.
Wait a second, I haven't taken my compass yet.
Back from their tour of Helsinki
In Iraq.
in Iraq.
Via Pyongyang.
So, it's track number 12.
Number Limerick, we're in,
Okay. 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 Ready? Yes. Okay. Yeah, turn the jump. Straight ahead. Triangle. This way. Now the